Hi, this is Susan Levin, and I am here today to talk to everyone about weight control and the evidence for weight loss on a plant-based diet. So thank you for having me here. Just a little background. I'm a registered dietitian at the Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine and at the Barnard Medical Center, where we see patients in a primary care environment, but we also conduct randomized controlled trials here, as well as a lot of other public-facing projects with legislation and patient education and public education about the health benefits of eating a plant-based diet. Okay, so to get started, I just want to first touch on the problem. Statistically speaking, in this country, more than 2/3 of us are overweight or obese, and 1/3 of us are obese. So these statistics seem pretty grim, and in fact they are, and unfortunately they tend to trickle down, meaning more and more children are now starting to be diagnosed as obese or overweight, and with that comes all sorts of health problems at younger and younger ages. And just as a little background, to define overweight and obese in the medical world, we use something called the body mass index, or BMI, and overweight is classified as over 25 kilograms per meter squared, and obesity is 30 or greater kilograms per meter squared. So it's your weight adjusted for your height. Certainly it has its own issues using a number that's pretty simplistic, but this is what we use. So what would be a cause for having these kinds of grim statistics in this nation? And there are many. There are theoretical issues, but there's some that are just basically mathematical. So an imbalance of calories in and calories out being probably the one we think about. Certainly as a dietitian, I think about you're eating more than you're burning, eating more than you need. Inactivity is oftentimes considered an issue for overweight and obesity if you're not physically active enough. Your environment, your genes, other health conditions that might affect your weight, and certainly medications that can affect weight as well. However, I'm going to certainly focus on the first bullet point here, because we know from recent studies that it's the calories in rather than the calories burned that are the primary reason for being overweight or obese. And I think this is critical to point out, because a very safe area for people to discuss about weight loss is just exercise more, get up, go, let's move. I mean, with all well and good intentions, being more physically active is not a solution for overweight and obesity, not a realistic solution. And I know people watch shows like The Biggest Loser, and yeah, if your job is to exercise 9 hours a day, you're probably going to be with some dietary restrictions, you're going to lose weight. But for most of us, burning is not the answer to being overweight or obese, and there is no activity that can really get you to your weight loss goals for a lot of reasons. But let's talk about per capita meat intake in this country, and because I want to let's dive deep into what we're eating. And thanks to the USDA, we know what people have been eating for about the past 100 years, and certainly they've been tracking America's eating habits for meat consumption since the early 1900s. And you can see here that people have eaten a lot of meat in this country for sure compared to other countries. I mean, 124 pounds per person per year, even in the turn of the century, is a tremendous amount of meat, and it's only gone up. And interestingly, it dropped a little bit with the recession, but we are climbing back up to our max point here. So it's typical when there's a financial recession that meat consumption goes down because it is so expensive. But we are starting to eat our way back into bad habits again. I think what's interesting is that it's not the red meat like pork and beef. For us Americans, it is the chicken. We consume 1 million chickens per hour in this country. So you can just let your imagination run wild with what that does to the environment. But let's keep our focus on health. But we're eating about now 60, and this is actually, I've looked at numbers even more recent than 2016. It's gone up even more. We continue to eat chicken. Now, whether this is because the healthcare professionals tend to steer people towards more chicken. Oh, don't eat red meat, eat white meat. Chicken is somehow healthier for you. There's a lot of problems with that advice, but one of the results is that we are eating so much more chicken than ever before, and it just continues to keep going up. Another completely recession-proof product is cheese. And you can see that in the early 1900s, we were consuming over 3 pounds of cheese per person per year. That's a lot for those of us who choose not to partake, but it has gone up to tenfold. We are now consuming more than 36 pounds per person per year of cheese. That is a huge, look at the slope of that line. I mean, that is just a huge difference over the past 100 years. And the slab of pizza right there in the middle, just to kind of show some of the reasons why diets have changed in this country when fast food started to become more prevalent. And then there, if you really dive deep into this, you could see a lot of programs that were established to get people to eat more cheese, programs managed by our own government. So we have government programs telling us to watch the saturated fat and watch the cholesterol in our diets, and then government programs that are trying to get us to eat more of the product that has the most saturated fat. That dairy happens to be the number one source of saturated fat in the American diet. And for children, it's typically fluid milk is the saturated fat source, but for adults, it's typically products like cheese. So you could see where this increase has dramatically happened and some of the reasons why. And I would argue it is one of the biggest causes of why we are so overweight in this country. But those are my thoughts, but I have some evidence. So we know from Adventist Health Studies what people eat makes a difference, and to what degree people eat certain things makes a difference as well. You can see in this graph, we're just looking at body mass index of the Adventists who participated in the studies. And if you haven't heard 100 times already, Adventists are a particular religious group, so they follow a certain set of criteria or morals where they don't drink, they don't smoke, they avoid caffeine, and they're asked to avoid meat as well. And while they tend to stick to most of those rules, there is a lot of variation with that meat rule. And what you find then is a pretty good study cohort, because they're following all the same general principles. So you don't have to ask yourself, well, maybe it's because some are more religious than others, and that's making a difference in their body weight. No, we got all that controlled for with this group, but what we don't have controlled is the diet. So we can see here exactly what toll the diet as opposed to alcohol or tobacco plays on health. So you can see that the lowest average BMI is among those who avoid all animal products, here called vegans, and it gets incrementally higher as they add in dairy and eggs, so lacto, ovo, pesco, a little bit higher, that's the fish. Semi, those are the people that eat meat rarely, and then non-vegetarian people who eat meat, and the tipping point for being non-vegetarian is that not that much. They could be just a small amount of meat, but anyone who eats meat fairly regularly is in the highest BMI category. And again, the lowest BMI category among the vegans here is the only group that's actually within what's considered a normal or healthy body weight. Similar findings in the EPIC studies. This is a large European study, and this includes about 21,000 people. And you can see here that among the vegetarians, the blue being male, the red being women or female, those who consume the meat, so compare the 2 bars to the right to the 2 bars to the left, just way more. They have more obesity prevalence compared with those who avoid meat. And further, looking at the same group of people, the people who changed their diet in the direction of including more plants and less animals, they gained the least amount of weight over a 5-year follow-up. So even for those who are eating meat, if they start to change their habits, they can improve their weight status as well, and their weight outcomes. So with other studies, we could see here that when you follow, this is investigators following a cohort over about 4 years or more than 120,000 people. This is in the US, it's men and women. They didn't have any chronic diseases, and no one was obese at baseline. But you could see that when you eat more fruits and vegetables and whole grains and even nuts, there's an inverse association with weight gain over that 4-year time frame. So that just means the higher your intake of vegetables, whole grains, and fruits, the less likely you are to gain weight. 0 is being the top line there. That's 0 weight gained or loss. So everything below that is a loss. So that's a pretty good sign. Okay, so it's not just not eating meat and dairy, eggs, and fish. It's actually including a lot of plant foods in your diet, healthy, high fiber foods. Now, why would that be? Why would high fiber plant-based diets cause weight loss? It's kind of, I like to put a picture on it, and this is what I tell patients all the time. When you eat bulk, when you eat fiber, when you eat beans, vegetables, fruits, and grains, it is incredibly heavy. It's very bulky fiber, right? What do we think of when we think of fiber? I think of a lot of stuff that's tough, and it's tough to digest, which is good. You don't want things shooting out to your bloodstream quickly. So these foods, although of course they have calories, right? They have your carbs, they have your protein, they have a little bit of fat. That does have calories, but fiber, which is a portion of the carbohydrate calories, because fiber is a carbohydrate. So for all those people that avoid carbohydrates because they want to lose weight, you're avoiding fiber, and that is tragic. And I'll go into why that's so tragic in my opinion. But this bulky weight fills you up on minimal calories, because there's just not that many calories in most plant foods, with exceptions being things like avocados, coconuts, nuts. But when you fill up on all this fiber, it has no calories. Fiber has no calories, or they're indigestible calories, I should say. So it's going in and it's coming back out. And fiber-rich grains, for example, they reduce the rates of glucose or sugar absorption, and that keeps your insulin levels in check. It improves your insulin sensitivity. If you don't have that, if you are eating meat and dairy and eggs with no fiber, you're not going to get that great insulin control and insulin sensitivity that you want, especially people who are at risk for or have diabetes. So just putting another picture on it, eating foods with low calories per weight, so again, fruits, vegetables, grains, allow for the activation of stomach stretch receptors to know, oh, I'm really full. So it's not so much that you ate too many calories, it's just you ate a lot of food. And look at that oil on the far left side. A tablespoon of oil has 15 grams, any oil, by the way, has 15 grams of fat in it. So you can see, do the math, times 9. Well, that's a lot of calories, but that's just an excessive amount of fat, which contributes to a whole host of other problems besides easy weight gain. You know, that's associated with higher risk for diabetes, cancer, and heart disease. Now, I do want to kind of go back and just give some props to fiber, other than just weight loss or weight control, which is fine enough thing, but insoluble fiber. If you've heard the 2 types of general categories of fiber, insoluble and soluble, but I want to talk about insoluble first. Insoluble means it's not going to break down when it goes in. It's going to, when you swallow it, and you can see it going down your esophagus here, it stays the same essentially as when it comes out your large intestines and out into the sewer. It's essentially the same, but not for nothing. Insoluble fiber is a scrub brush. So it's going to scrape and scratch out all those little pockets and folds in our incredibly long digestive tract, and clean it out. And that's going to help reduce your risk for cancers of the digestive tract. But it also keeps things moving quickly. So that's another benefit of having insoluble fiber in your diet, is you want to be going to the bathroom often. And you want your bowel movements to not be hard and rigid, and they will be if things aren't moving fast enough. Too much water is lost, it gets too hard. You want your movements to be soft and frequent, and that's what insoluble fiber is going to do to you. Soluble fiber, now this one has more colors because there's a lot going on here. Soluble fiber is the fiber that does actually change once you chew it up and swallow it. It becomes kind of gummy, and it starts to act like, I don't know, I've used so many different analogies for soluble fiber, but gum, flypaper, I don't know, a train. Soluble fiber, when you chew it up, it gets gummy, and it starts to pick up and attract your cholesterol, your excess cholesterol. And we all make too much cholesterol. Even if you don't eat dietary cholesterol, your liver is making way more than you need. But the deal it made with Mother Nature was, I'm going to make so much cholesterol you'll never be without, but you have to eat fiber to get this out of your body, because if you let cholesterol just run around rampant in your body, it's going to wreak havoc all over your arteries. It's going to be a bad deal for you. So fiber, yes, but humans have dropped that deal for most of us, and we don't eat that much fiber anymore, but we should be. Anyway, this gum is going to attract that excess cholesterol. It's going to attract your excess hormones, whether that's excess estrogen or testosterone, and help reduce your risk for hormone-related cancers like breast cancer, prostate cancer. And that's it, same story. If you don't eat the fiber, if you don't send the train down the track for the hormones to jump on with the cholesterol, they're not going anywhere. They're going to recirculate, wreaking all sorts of havoc in your body, because the deal is we're supposed to be eating a lot of fiber. And any other toxin in your body, whether that's just from breathing in our environment, toxins from medications that we take, or other exposures, other toxins that get into our system from who knows where. This is the train that's going to take it out of your body. So can't say enough about fiber and all the wonderful things it does, with weight loss being one of them. All right, so fiber, that's one really good reason why a plant-based diet helps keep people slim, or get to those weight goals. But there's also some element of an after-meal calorie burn with eating low-fat vegan diets. And we've seen this in studies, again, that when you eat anything, your metabolism revs up a little bit. And that's normal, because you have to break it down. And the effect with low-fat plant-based, though, seems to be a bump, about a 16% bump in the after meal burn. And that might sound small, but it matters if that's the way you're eating all the time, every day. And it seems to be, again, due to this improvement in insulin sensitivity. So if your insulin is more sensitive, it's able to pull that glucose into your cells faster and keep our metabolism going, and that's key. We also know that after meal calorie burns, again, while not the ultimate, it really matters more what you're eating, but just that little bump in metabolism can be helpful when people are trying to lose weight. Okay, let's move on to different studies that show nutrition interventions. And I'm going to start with a big meta-analysis. So that way I don't have to go into every single study, but this is a meta-analysis, meaning it's an exhaustive search of all the studies that looked at vegan and vegetarian diets, and weight loss. And all of these studies used weight loss plans that didn't incorporate calorie restriction, right? So they're just looking at what the diet does itself. If you can eat anything calorie restricted and lose weight, and people have proven that with crazy Twinkie diets and other such things. But we just wanted to see, if you're just eating vegetarian and you're just eating vegan, and that's the study protocol, what happens to your weight? Consistently, and I'll try to explain this fun graph. Consistently, what we saw in all of the studies that, again, did not use calorie restriction or any kind of exercise protocol, but just wanted to see the effect of the diet, you can see that, again, the vertical line on the far right that says 0 means no weight loss, no weight gain. Anything to the right of that would have been weight gain, but we didn't have to use that because every study had weight loss. And you can kind of see which studies, different studies, and the lead authors, and what the average weight loss was for their particular intervention, whether it was vegetarian or vegan. But the point is again, these people were not asked to do anything special, count calories, no. Portion control, nope. It was just eat a vegan diet. And maybe, for example, like eat a low-fat vegan diet, but eat as much as you want. We don't care about the volume. It's just more of it's a qualitative shift in your diet and not a quantitative shift in your diet, but you do have to follow, fruits, vegetables, beans, grains. They have to be within these confines. And you see everyone, even though what's called ad libitum, you eat as much as you want of these foods and let's see what happens. Consistently, on average, people lost weight every time. And I will say also that while this is a meta-analysis or a systematic review of a bunch of studies, we here at PCRM do so many studies where maybe even the outcome isn't looking at weight, but it's diabetes control, it's rheumatoid arthritis, it's acne, it's PMS, it's whatever the end point we're looking at. Consistently, the people who follow the low-fat vegan diet, if they need to lose weight, do lose weight. And time again, you see these people every week. They come in and they say, no, I didn't lose any weight this week. I ate so much. I'm so full. I'm so satisfied. But maybe that's okay, because what I'm trying to do is get my diabetes under control anyway. And they come in and they lost a few pounds. Now, you're not going to lose 10 pounds a week on a healthy diet. You're not going to probably not even going to lose 5 pounds. But if they've lost 1 to 2 pounds a week eating low-fat vegan diet, after the course of a study or after just living your life in a year, it's pretty easy to feel really full, satisfied, lose weight. But then, as we already talked about, improve your risk for not developing heart disease, diabetes, or many, many forms of cancer. So holistically, a great program. And yes, for those who ask, does it satisfy all my nutrient needs to eat a vegan diet? Absolutely, even without the calorie restriction. And this isn't my quote, by the way. I took this from another study, but plant-based diets should be recommended was the conclusion of a study, and it doesn't require calorie restrictions, and it's completely nutrient adequate. And we also know this from the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics position paper, which I'll point out in a minute. So why then should we be recommending plant-based diets? Why should people be consuming plant-based diets? Well, they're more effective than standard recommendations in numerous randomized controlled trials. So those trials that we picked out in those meta-analyses, those were all randomized controlled trials, and they're always more effective. Even if you pit it against a diet that is effective, the plant-based diet tends to be more effective for all these different healthy endpoints. And again, I tell this to people who go like the low carb way or keto way. It's like, I lost 10 pounds in a week or 2 weeks. It's like fantastic. But what's happening to your dietary cholesterol? What's happening to your heart, to your liver, to your brain, to your muscles, your mental health? Like all of these things that a plant-based diet has been shown to improve. It is not you're just going to lose weight at any cost. This is, you're going to lose weight and reduce your risk for all these other diseases. And by increasing fiber intake, again, it sounds like such a simple and boring instruction, but it comes with all those other benefits, which is so key, I think, in terms of just being holistically focused on your health. Now, this is the position paper of the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics, and I put it up here because I do think it's an easy read. I don't think you have to be a medical professional to understand it, and what I really like about it is that it breaks out every different question you might have. What about iron? What about omega-3? And it has a little section on that. Or maybe you're asking yourself, what about bone health? What about cancer and diabetes? And it breaks out sections on that. Or maybe you're more lifestyle interested. I'm pregnant. Can I do this while I'm pregnant? I'm an athlete. What does this mean to me as an athlete? And it'll show you by life cycle what this diet means as well. And it's evidence-based. It gives you all the evidence you need for your own peace of mind, but maybe even for your health professional. If you're having arguments with your healthcare provider and you just need one document with a ton of referenced articles, this to me would be the one. So that is actually the conclusion of my presentation, but I'm happy to now take Q&A from anyone. And I think that means, I've never done this before, but I think that means if looking for typed comments to the right of my screen. Okay, I'm told that I am good to go. So I really appreciate everyone being here. And if you have any questions, you can go to barnardmedical.org or pcrm.org for more resources and information. Thank you, everybody. Bye-bye.